The easiest person in any room to manipulate is the one who answers immediately, not the loud one, not the naive one, the fast one. Speed is the tell. Speed says, I have not checked my own position. I have not asked what this costs me. I am reacting instead of deciding. Every manipulator, every con artist, every colleague angling for a favor they haven't earned, they are all, in the end, betting on your speed. They are betting that you will answer before you think. And most people do. Most people were trained from childhood that hesitation is rudeness, that a pause is an insult, that the polite thing is to respond right away with warmth and certainty. This is the single most exploitable trait a human being can have, and almost no one is taught to notice it in themselves. Here is the ordinary way people move through the world. They believe that being agreeable is the same thing as being safe. They believe that if they are kind enough, clear enough, fast enough to help, they will be protected from exploitation. This is exactly backward. The agreeable, the transparent, the eager to please are not protected. They are simply the easiest targets to find because they've already announced through their behavior exactly where the pressure points are. The people who cannot be manipulated are not colder, they are not crueler. They have simply stopped confusing openness with safety. They understand something the rest of us resist, that being fully known, fully predictable, fully available at all times to all people is not virtue. It is exposure. The manipulator's first weapon is your need to respond. Take that away, and every other weapon they own becomes useless. This goes back further than office politics or bad relationships. It goes back to the earliest human groups, where social standing was currency and reading intention correctly meant survival. In small tribes, hesitation before answering a request was not neutral. It signaled status. The high-status individual could afford to consider. The low-status individual could not. They answered instantly because refusal or even delay carried real risk of exile or punishment. That instinct never left us. It's baked into the nervous system. When someone asks you for something and you feel that jolt of urgency to reply right now, that jolt is not politeness. It's an ancient submission reflex firing in a modern context where it no longer serves you. People who cannot be manipulated have simply retrained that reflex. Not suppressed it, retrained it. The pause is not hostility. The pause is the reclamation of status the manipulator is counting on you not to have. Habitioni, THEDOI picture a mid-level director named Eris at a Friday afternoon meeting, being asked by his VP to take on a project with an impossible deadline, framed as just this once. And I know it's a lot, but I trust you. The old Eris would have said yes on the spot, flattered by the trust, terrified of seeming difficult. The new Eris says, let me look at my week and get back to you by end of day. Nothing else. No apology. No justification. The VP's face flickers, just slightly, because the script she was running required an instant yes, and she didn't get one. By Monday, the deadline has quietly moved. Nothing was refused. Nothing was fought over. The delay did all the work. Stop answering in the moment you are asked. Build the phrase into your body before you need it. I'll get back to you. And use it on everything that matters, even things you already know your answer to. Let people wait. Waiting is where their manufactured urgency dies of natural causes. Habitwo, every unearned kindness is an invoice waiting to be presented. This one runs even deeper than status. It's reciprocity, the oldest social contract our species has. Anthropologists have found it in every culture ever studied. A gift creates an obligation, and the obligation is often invisible until the moment it's called in. Manipulators know this instinctively, even if they've never named it. They give you something small and unrequested, a favor, a compliment, an introduction, specifically so that later, the request that follows feels like repayment rather than persuasion. Consider a young associate named Delphine given an unsolicited gift by a senior partner. He covers for her mistake in a client call, tells no one, mentions it once lightly, weeks later. When he finally asks her to falsify a number on a report, it doesn't feel like a request, it feels like a debt coming due. She almost does it not because she's dishonest, but because the architecture of obligation was built weeks in advance, brick by brick, disguised as generosity. The unmanipulable do not refuse kindness. They simply price it the moment it arrives. When something is given that wasn't asked for, they name it internally. This is a debt, and I will decide when and how it gets paid. On my terms, not the terms of whoever benefits from my gratitude. Gratitude is fine. Blind gratitude is a leash. The readable man is already spent. Manipulation requires a map. It requires knowing what you want, what you fear, what flatters you, what shames you. Because every pressure tactic is really just a key cut to fit a specific lock. People give this map away constantly for free out of a simple desire to be understood. They announce their insecurities in casual conversation. They perform their ambitions loudly enough for strangers to hear. They think this openness makes them likable. It does. It also makes them operable. There was once a division head, unnamed here because the story matters more than the name, who never once, in 15 years, told a colleague what he actually wanted next in his career. Not out of paranoia, out of discipline. People around him constantly guessed, and constantly guessed wrong, and because they guessed wrong, they could never quite figure out which lever moved him. He was praised for being hard to read, as if it were a personality quirk. It was not a quirk. It was a wall he built one silence at a time. You do not need to lie about yourself. You need to simply stop narrating yourself. Let your wants stay private until the moment you choose to act on them. Every piece of interior life you hand out for free is a key someone else now owns. Hands watch the hands, not the mouth. Words are cheap because they cost the speaker nothing in the moment. Action costs something, time, money, risk, and so action is the only reliable signal of intention. This is not cynicism, it's just arithmetic. A person who tells you that you're indispensable while consistently forgetting your name in meetings is showing you the truth twice, once with the mouth, once with the hands, and the hands are the ones to believe. Imagine a founder, call her Ren, courted for months by an investor who calls her the future of the industry, takes her to dinners, sends warm messages at midnight praising her vision. The offer, when it finally comes, is worse than 3 competing term sheets she's quietly gathered in the same period, each from people who said far less and moved far faster with actual capital. The warmth was real in the sense that it was felt. It was worthless in the sense that it never became a signature on a page. Stop scoring people on what they say about you. Start keeping a private, honest ledger of what they've actually done for you and to you, and let that ledger, not the compliments, decide how much trust they're issued. Whoever needs no one owes no one anything. This is the habit that frightens people most when they hear it, because it sounds like isolation. It is the opposite. It is the precondition for genuine connection, because it removes desperation from the relationship. Manipulation thrives on dependency, on one person controlling a resource the other cannot get anywhere else. Money, attention, approval, access. The moment you have exactly one source for something you need, that source has a hand around your throat, however gently they choose to hold it. A composer named Teodor spent a decade with a single patron who funded every performance of his work. The patron was generous, warm, seemingly a friend, until the one year Teodor wrote something the patron didn't personally like, and funding evaporated within a week. Teodor rebuilt slowly, deliberately, refusing ever again to let one relationship hold the entire weight of his career. 3 patrons now, none of whom know how replaceable they individually are, all of whom therefore treat him better than the one who once held all the power. Look at every relationship, professional, financial, emotional, where you have exactly one source. Build a second source before you need it, not out of distrust of the first, but because a single point of dependency is a single point of control, and someone else is always holding the other end of that control. Open door, an open door is worth more than a locked one. Manipulators love commitments that cannot be undone, because irreversibility is where their leverage compounds. The signed lease with no exit, the verbal promise made in front of witnesses, the public pledge that would be humiliating to walk back. Once you cannot leave, every subsequent demand becomes cheaper for them to make, because your only alternative, reversal, has been made to look worse than compliance. A man named Ovidiu once agreed under social pressure at a family gathering to co-sign a business venture with a cousin he barely trusted, specifically because backing out in that moment would have caused a scene. He spent 4 years paying for a decision made in 90 seconds of discomfort, purely because he had, without noticing, removed his own exit before agreeing to anything. Before any commitment, ask one blunt question: if this turns out to be wrong, how do I leave? If you cannot answer that question clearly, you are not agreeing to a partnership. You are agreeing to a trap with good lighting. ABTCVN. Briefs and TOB indispensable and own in person. The unmanipulable are simply the unneeded. Not unneeded by the world, but unneeding of any single hand that might close around them. This is the final habit, and it's really the sum of the other 6. It is not about becoming impressive to everyone. It is about arranging your life so that no single relationship, no single boss, no single approval holds a monopoly on your well-being. The moment that happens, every manipulation tactic in existence loses its engine, because all of them run on the same fuel: your fear of losing the one thing you cannot replace. I did not learn any of this by observing it calmly from a safe distance. I learned the delay because I once said yes in 11 seconds to something that cost me 2 years to undo. I learned the priced gift because I once accepted a favor I didn't ask for and spent a decade feeling obligated before I understood why. I learned the unrateable surface the hard way, watching someone I trusted use, one by one, every insecurity I had ever mentioned to them in confidence. None of these 7 habits arrived as wisdom. They arrived as scar tissue. That is the only honest way this kind of clarity ever arrives, not from books, not from lectures, but from the specific memory of the moment you realized too late exactly how you were being played and by whom. None of this is about becoming hard. Hardness is just another performance, another surface someone can learn to read and use. This is about something quieter and colder than hardness. The simple, private decision to stop being available on demand, to stop needing to be liked faster than you need to be safe, to stop mistaking your own transparency for a virtue when it has only ever been a vulnerability wearing a nicer name. Power, in the end, is not the ability to move others. It is the ability to remain unmoved until you, and only you, decide otherwise. Everyone eventually meets a room full of people trying to close their hand around something in them. The only real question, the only one that has ever mattered, is whether there is anything left in that hand to close around.